Maybe Steph's not the ideal partner, and Steph will be fine. Steph will get a woman best suited for him in 2 seconds. This doesn't mean she's a 304. This doesn't mean she wants a whole bunch of inside of her. It could very well mean it could just be that she wanted to write her own story her way. And anyone out here who hasn't had that moment, I'm here to tell you, it happens. You know, I do some of my best thinking when behind the wheel. And I have a hot take on this whole Ayesha Curry, Steph Curry situation. I'm not mad at Ayesha Curry. I'm not mad at her at all. And she's getting a lot of heat for having what I call an awakening. She's experiencing an awakening at 36, 37 years old, and perhaps this woman is unhappy. And a lot of people are judging her, and we all judge in some capacity, no matter who you are, no matter what religion you are, people judge. There's levels to the judgment, okay? And people are looking at Ayesha Curry as some type of Jezebel. And this is not a pick-me situation, because truth be told, if you've been following my channel, I hate celebrities, but you know, they provide content, and the more ignorance, the better. But Ayesha Curry is just experiencing something that a lot of people go through, and they just are afraid to admit it. You know, she married at a young age, and she started a family fairly young. And there's nothing wrong with Ayesha Curry wanting her own career. There's nothing wrong with it. Some people have this whole concept that because she's married to Steph Curry, that, you know, all is great in her world. Like she should just shut her mouth and just be a happy housewife and a mom, and that's it. The end. Life is over. All is merry in your world. You shouldn't have any complaints. And, you know, who are we to determine someone's journey here? You know, Ayesha Curry probably faced a lot of pressure coming up. When her and Steph were together in their younger years, Steph never saw himself becoming a professional NBA player. He wanted to become a coach. And Ayesha probably saw herself being the breadwinner. Whatever the case may be, she envisioned a different life for herself. Now, I get it. Everyone thinks she should just shut up and be happy with the life she has. But is that fair? Is that fair? Should she no longer pursue her own goals? Now, has she said some egregious things in recent years? Sure. She's been on her Jada Pinkett Smith tour and has said some things that I'm just like, maybe that should have just been in-house. But she's experiencing an awakening. And, you know, a lot of us go through it. It just depends on the age. I had a similar awakening about life, you know, when I was probably early to mid 30s, where you just want to create the lane for yourself. And you want to do it on your terms. And if that's a selfish way of thinking, then so be it. Many of us suffer from being selfish. All right. But, you know, Ayesha Curry, one thing she needs to understand is she can still have a flourishing career married to Steph. And just imagine how many women are chomping at the bits to get in Steph Curry's pants. You know, imagine all the women he comes across, you know, on the road or at home, or if he's a social media guy, you know, in his DMs, you know. But Ayesha Curry seems to like, I don't think she cares. This wasn't the life she saw for herself, and she kind of just fell into it. This wasn't the life she envisioned. And she's not wrong. I'm going to keep saying that. She's not wrong for that. Now, she had a choice. She didn't have to marry Steph. She could have said no. You know, she could have ventured out and became her own person, her own woman, and started a family when she wanted to. She had an option. But maybe there was pressure. There's a lot of pressure from that whole Christian community and trying to look good in the eyes of family and friends who are also, you know, maybe big Christ followers. You know, Steph Curry comes from a Christian household. And maybe Ayesha Curry just felt the need to just, you know, kind of acquiesce. You know what? Let me just go about it because Steph's a good guy. I like his family. His family likes me. Our families get along, and I'll just shut my mouth and hope for the best. It happens. So the tough part for her is she's damned if she do, she's damned if she doesn't. Because if she decides to go forward with a divorce with Steph, She's going to be called all types of names. There's going to be a whole bunch of slander, whole bunch of, she's for the streets. She's a hoe. She's this, she's that. And if she sticks around, she's never going to be truly happy. So she's screwed. She is screwed unless she comes to some kind of conclusion, whether it's through therapy, whether it's through just a heart-to-heart with Steph. Maybe she comes to a conclusion that, hey, you know what? I'm wrong. I'm going to just shut up and be the best wife and mom that I can be. And when our kids get old enough, then I'll just whatever. She should have done what Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn did, and just become like lifelong partners and get away from the whole, signing marriage papers. That's what she should have done. But who knows that? Who thinks this way when they're in their 20s? No one. But she's having buyer's remorse. And anyone who's, watching this situation in real time, who, wants to pretend they've never had a situation in their lives where they just was kind of regretful, you're lying. It doesn't have to be with a spouse or a partner. It could just be with a job. It could be with the car you bought. It could be with having kids. People have epiphanies where they wake up and it's just yo, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I wanted. Yeah, I should be happy. Yeah, I should be grateful. But this is not the path that I wanted for myself. And for Ayesha Curry to get so much heat, so much, ridicule for having maybe a change of heart, it just shows how hypocritical society is. We're just so quick to judge someone for change. Oh, you should be happy to have a guy like Steph. You know how many women would want a guy like Steph? Maybe she doesn't care. Maybe Ayesha Curry didn't have her whole phase. Maybe that's what she secretly wants. And if it's not that, maybe she just wants to be alone and have options. We have options and choices with everything in life, and maybe she just wasn't ready. That's why I always say, your 20s are for learning yourself, growing. Those of you who decide to have kids and get married in your 20s, God bless you. I had a child in my 20s, but your 20s, to me, if I had to do it over, I wouldn't have had children until maybe 40. Truth be told, because when you think about it, if you are given, if you're granted long life, you're pushing 60 maybe when your kid gets 18. If you keep yourself in good condition and live a clean life, 58 years old with an 18-year-old is not the end of the world. People want to be young and active when they have kids, but maybe that's just not the way, But your 20s are for growing and for learning yourself and to explore. That's my opinion. To get your money up, bounce around a bunch of jobs if you need to, get your coins together. Your 30s, if you want to settle down, cool, but maybe you don't have to jump into the whole family life. Men, we don't have biological clocks. So if Ayesha Curry didn't really want kids, man, she should have thought about this. But maybe she didn't have the right voices around her, the parental figures, or she felt the pressure of the Christian community to live up to this woman that she's yet to become or maybe doesn't want to be. And that's not her fault. People have to use their brains. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's an opinion just like everyone else has. But just maybe we should cut her some slack because she's having an awakening. Don't be so quick to think because someone's married that's the end of their story. It's not. It's a chapter. It's a chapter in her life. Ayesha Curry went to school. She wanted to become something. She still can, and she's in a fortunate situation to have the financial backing to do it. But maybe she wanted to do it on her terms, and she dropped the ball. She was young and just made a knee-jerk reaction. It made sense, and now it's not making sense. And she's not wrong for that. And that's just one man's take. I think people need to be a little more understanding that life is cyclical. You go through various phases and stages, and she's just going through one right now. But she needs to lay low. I wouldn't say much else because, if she's a big girl and can take the slander, then cool. But people are coming at her. And I'm just going to be that one voice or one of few voices to understand her situation and also to understand that, you know, she's not the world's worst person because she's having some type of, you know, change of heart. People need to cool out and just let her be. Let her continue to grow as a human. It's okay. Some of us look at women as the foundation of family. You guys give birth. You guys are the nurturers. We get it. But women are allowed to have a change of heart. It doesn't matter about the financial status of your partner. Maybe money doesn't move this woman. You know, some of us aren't moved by money. We're such a money-hungry generation, and, you know, everything's about money. No, it's not. No, it's not. There's other levels of happiness. She just happens to have one part of it, but it's not fulfilling her. Maybe Steph's not the ideal partner. Again, that was her choice, but she could have felt pressured. Sometimes you feel pressure by what your peers are doing. All your peers are getting married, so you're going to get married. You know, the clock is ticking. If I wait this long, I won't be able to have kids if you're a woman. There's a lot of scenarios that come into the equation. Tons. This doesn't mean she's a 304. This doesn't mean she wants a whole bunch of, you know, penises inside of her. It could very well mean it, but it doesn't have to be that. It could just be that she wanted to write her own story her way. And anyone out here who hasn't had that moment, I'm here to tell you, it happens. Some of us adapt, others stick to the script and won't acquiesce to any of the pressures out here. I'm not getting married, I'm not having children, and they stick to the script until they're damn 40, 50 years old. There's variables out here. But we need to cut her some slack. She doesn't seem like the world's worst person. We've seen worse. We've seen worse out here. Trust and believe. Don't get me down that rabbit hole, because I'd be on a whole tirade and we'd be talking about 45 minutes here. So she has to make a decision. She has to make a decision, and Steph will be fine. Steph will get a woman best suited for him in 2 seconds. 2 seconds. There are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of women out here who would, you know, jump at the chance of Steph Curry. Maybe Ayesha doesn't care. Maybe she doesn't care. People break up every day. People divorce every day. People lose good people every day. Maybe she's a good person. You know, we don't know. Based on what she's saying, she's doing a lot of chatter, but she could be a good person just having a moment. So does Ayesha Curry deserve grace, or do you guys really think she's out of pocket?